Good evening. You're watching the Chucktown Wind Report Monday night update for November the 16th. It's about 9:15 p.m. Okay, we're going to talk about the winds for tomorrow and Wednesday, and as we get into Thursday, Friday, things get a little squirrelier, but then it clears out and we have a cool northerly wind coming for this weekend. Right now we have this expanded high pressure to our north that has kept the winds a little bit on the weaker side this week. Now we did see a stronger gradient today, allow for about 13-14 knots on the beaches along the east-northeast backdoor sea breezing oscillations that we sometimes get to increase those winds. But what we're looking at for tomorrow, with high pressure diving down from Canada and pushing this cold front boundary down, that high pressure is going to get reinforcement from the north, and most of that central high pressure is now going to become up in the northeast United States, which means for us that our winds are going to come up. So we're looking at some pretty healthy moderate winds for tomorrow, about 14 to 18 knots east-northeast. Now if we see those mid-teens by late morning, we could see upper teens by early to mid-afternoon, and even possibly near 20 knots by mid-afternoon, I would say. By late afternoon, sun sets around 5:15, 5:30, so things tend to cool down and the winds tend to back off. But we're looking at a pretty decent build before that happens for the afternoon. Now, as we get into Wednesday, this high pressure leans a little bit more, it wobbles a little bit more out into the Atlantic, and then we end up with more of an east-southeast or even a southeast gradient. The gradient does look like it's going to remain tight ahead of all this really, really nasty weather coming. We have an upper level low moving across here. We have a double cold front on the way ahead of that. As that severe weather we have a lot of severe weather outbreaking going on out west for the next day or two, and some of that's going to head our way. So rains are not out of the picture on this. Just a matter of how much rain is going to make it here and if it's going to be strong enough for any kind of severe weather or severe thunderstorming. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to have more rain just coming up from the Gulf of Mexico and just get sort of more of a kind of messy weather pattern as we get into Wednesday night and into Thursday. But as Friday comes around, we see high pressure work back behind that boundary and clear everything out for some cooler temperatures and strong northerlies. So I want to take a quick look at GRE for radar. Here's the rain. Not much going on in our neck of the woods right now. Fairly dry still. We have some rain pulling up through the Midwest, through Arkansas. Another cold front drawn ahead of the upper low across the west, and that's expected to remain as is for tomorrow. We'll still stay on the dry side for tomorrow. We get into Wednesday, things get a little bit wet as this blob of moisture comes across from the Gulf of Mexico and up into our area. So that's when we start to see rain start entering the picture, is by Wednesday. Okay, if we look at Datascope, take a quick peek at the Charleston area, and we see about 6 to 7 knots from the northeast to east-northeast. Not much going on. The gradient's fairly light. We saw some winds offshore earlier that were showing some higher numbers where the warmer waters were. And you can see one of these buoys out here, the Charleston buoy, showing 18 knots. So you can see with that warmer water is allowing that cool air to actually build the difference in temperature gradient there. But we're not going to see that tonight. We're going to see that tomorrow, 14 to 18 knots as a recap. And then on Wednesday, we'll probably see 13 to 17 knots on the east-southeast to southeast gradient, but we're looking at rain starting to mix in with that. So it's going to make things a little bit on the tricky side. If we look at the details, this is from the Isle of Palm sensor. Here's the North American model 5 kilometer. This is a high-resolution model. You can see the winds building throughout the day. Here we are by 7, 8, 9 a.m. I'm going to blow this up just a little bit so you can see it better. By 12 p.m. we're at 14 knots, and then by later in the afternoon we're at 14 to 16 knots. So one of the higher resolution models is already agreeing with this, and that seems to be the trend. The high tide for tomorrow will be at 5:33 p.m. So that's another thing to consider. If you have the sandbars out there and the winds are up, it should be pretty fun in the afternoon on the outgoing tide. And that will do it for the Chucktown Wind Report. I'll touch base with everybody tomorrow for another update. Thanks for watching.